Hey everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of Foulborn Roulette, which is the story of a washed up drunk, and it doesn't have a happy ending either. I spin the wheel, land on this piece of art, and create a new character. Please welcome Joe Cocker. Once a legend, but about to take a spin. Joe's first assignment is to kill Hillock, which he does. Joe grabs some twin gear from the chest, gathered during the golden days, reminiscing how life used to be. We're leveling with a mix of heralds and rolling magma, and because cast on crit is the name of the game, Joe becomes an inquisitor. That's all the planning that was put in his comeback story. From here on, it's just go with the flow. The delivery method of the crits is a classic, Cyclone. By critting, you cast a spell. Cyclone is slow, but it's important to get hands-on experience early on, no matter how bad it is. Feel a bit how this is supposed to play, so here you see Joe with a cast on crit setup. He's not critting all that much, but when he does, he casts a single rolling magma. It's not much, but it's better than no rolling magma. You can tell mana is a serious issue already despite having Eldritch Battery, but at least the initial idea is there. It's not exactly a revolutionary idea, I know, but hey, a big part of this video will be sharing the thought process and several pieces of experiments, because unfortunately the end result just isn't going to be all that impressive. I'm just managing expectations here. The main takeaway at this point in the game is that there are many issues to solve. Mana, that's one of them, but also damage, as this Katava segment clearly indicates. Joe is now 49, which is a milestone. Primary reason to celebrate this birthday is that he can now equip the Foulborn Sire of Shards. Let's talk about this staff. This staff has socketed gems fire 4 additional projectiles in a circle and provides some other stuff too. The main change that the Foulborn brings is that it removes projectile damage and replaces that with socketed gems chained 2 additional times. I thought that was very interesting actually, and my idea was to socket a cast on crit setup in the staff and then clear the whole screen with projectiles that fly in all directions and also chain 2 times. That is pretty much all the thought that I put into this. I'm typically doing further testing in game, as you will see. That said, it's time to craft. So that means getting 6 sockets, 6 linking the staff, and apply some quality. For now, Cyclone remains the primary trigger mechanic, supported by cast on crit. The spell of choice remains rolling magma, further supported by increased crit, crit multi, and inspiration, which again provides crit chance. The support gems are simply focused for now on getting as much crit as possible. This brings the tooltip crit chance to 54%, and that is without any power charges or inspiration charges or flasks. That is not terrible for being level 49. Joe gets rid of the clean slate and ends up taking a Zandetta's cassock for the Chaos Res, and there's some consecrated ground synergy as well. We're pathing towards power charges, which seems like a no-brainer, and Joe gets a move on with the rest of the campaign, and here you see the first results. This is pretty much the idea. Spin the wind through enemies, trigger projectiles in all directions, and hopefully those things do enough damage. So far, so good. What is specifically interesting about rolling magma, apart from cat memes, is that the extra chains on the staff make the rolling magma do 2 additional hops or bounces. It doesn't chain like most projectiles would, it's just bouncing 2 more times, and each time it bounces there is AoE, so each bounce can hit an enemy, doubling or maybe even tripling the damage output. This is what makes rolling magma a good leveling skill, but it also works well with the staff for the same reason. As the campaign progresses, Joe starts experimenting more and more. First we waste 600 chromes to have the staff be 3 green and 3 blue sockets, because projectile support gems tends to be green. First on the list is returning projectiles. You can see that in action here. It makes for even more bounces, and it does so as well when it collides with terrain or walls. After the 3 hops, it bounces back towards the character. More bounces means more fun, I think. This works quite well actually, it's nothing to complain about from Joe's perspective. This is a solid performance, this is what Joe came out to do. Joe celebrates another birthday, level 58. We start investing in several staff nodes. Here is the Arcali damage, that's not bad at all, and here are the Celestial Sisters. Up front, I wasn't expecting single target to be good actually, I was thinking more of a map clear character with the staff and all, so I'm okay with the current damage output of Joe. Up next in the list of experiment support gems is slower projectiles, trying to have the AoEs overlap more, and also it is a more damage multiplier, where returning projectiles is a less damage multiplier. The third ascendancy goes into Sanctuary for some tankiness. Joe never ascended a fourth time, his career was kind of deteriorating at that point. It just never really came to fruition, the last lab. That said, Kitava bites the dust, and it is time to get into maps. Joe starts early maps, with some issues. He's not hit capped anymore, only 95%. Crit chance is looking decent, 73% without power charges or a flask. Gear wise, it is 100% twink leveling gear. First order of business is to get an anti-bleeding flask, and then let's jump into the map. And the build holds up pretty okay. Tankiness is a bit of a concern at this point. There is no stun immunity, which can mess up the flow, which is annoying. But apart from that, it works as advertised, I would say. It has met my expectations when first looking at the staff and thinking that this could be fun. Returning projectiles is back. I keep testing some different setups across the footage. Boss damage or single target damage is not so great. The build does decently well in the league mechanic, however. In a tier 5 map, the magma balls kill most of the breach monsters. This build is always a hit based build, by the way. There is no ignite scaling, I'm not going for that. I think ignite scaling could actually work pretty well, but then the whole idea of cast on crit doesn't make much sense, at least to me. I think in that case you just want to self-cast these projectiles and have it ignite and pro-live. Joe is using rolling magma up to this point because that was the leveling skill and it felt overall like a decent option. But there are of course way more spell projectile skills. I won't be looking into transfigured versions, by the way, only the regular ones. So it's time to test these out. We're starting with ethereal knives. The primary goal of the test is to check how the build feels to play, to see if the skill synergizes well with the staff and the cock setup, to see if it makes use of the chain effect and how, and to check the projectiles, that sort of thing. Damage is less important at this stage. The spells are all level 1, so damage won't be amazing either way. Ethereal knives though, it's not bad. I feel you need some projectile speed like the shrine gave me. That's gonna be hard to get in the Templar area. It does the job, but it's not better than rolling magma, I feel. Next contestant, Fireball, with returning projectiles. These fireballs do chain twice and then return to my position. Visually very fun, I think. Damage wise, not bad either. Flat damage on fireballs is decent, similar to rolling magma. It's kind of interesting and I'm not sure why, but compared to rolling magma, which all triggers at the same time, the fireballs trigger one by one. They still go in a circle, you still cast 5 of them, but sequentially they do it one by one. This is definitely a good candidate, however, as it makes use of all the aspects of the staff and of the cast on crit setup. Then we get away from fire into cold, Eye of Winter. The advantage of cold spells is that you freeze and chill, which is a defensive layer in itself. The primary issue, however, with the Eye of Winter is that the 5 extra projectiles are only working for the Eye of Winter spell itself. In other words, my cast on crit doesn't cast 5 Eye of Winters, it casts 1 Eye of Winter with 5 extra projectiles in the end. Because of this, there's little synergy with my setup, as the whole idea is to fire 5 projectiles, not 1. We move on to Ball Lightning. I like that it covers so much of the screen, the clear is good in that sense. If projectiles collide with terrain, they return. They don't seem to chain, however, because Ball Lightning natively pierces enemies, and if a skill pierces enemies, it can't chain off of those enemies. And as the 2 extra chains is the whole idea of the Foulborn unique, there's little reason to use Ball Lightning. I would be better off using a regular Sire of Shards in this case, unless I'm missing something. Which if I do, I'm sure you guys will inform me about in the comments section. I appreciate all the feedback, by the way, that I get on these videos. I'm not being sarcastic here or anything. These runs for me are a learning experience as well. It is back to fire with Blazing Salvo. That is a skill. I don't think I've ever seen someone make a video about this. Maybe it was once popular before I started playing PoE, which was in Betrayal. I mean, it looks cool, again with returning projectiles especially. It has barely got any range though, that's not great. And it's fire based, which is arguably the worst of the 3 elements. I do feel the single target damage is good because all the projectiles return to me in sequence. So I think there is a lot of potential for many hits on a single target. But for clear, I'm not convinced. And the lack of range isn't great either. I think if you self-cast this, you have decent range. In fact, you can just click your mouse further away, but with the cast on crit setup that is all gone. Then something icy and possibly spicy, Ice Spear. Cold damage, that's good. A visual mess, which is an acquired taste, but I kinda like it. Good range, these things fly all over the place, but they have the same issue as ball lightning. They natively pierce, so there is no added benefit from the 2 extra chains on the weapon. Single target doesn't seem amazing either, so I think I'll pass on this one as well. Up next is Spark with faster projectiles instead of returning projectiles. I don't really have a lot to say about this, except that I'm not a fan of what this looks like. Damage seems low, clear isn't great, single target isn't either, unless the boss is in a small space. I'm ruling this out rather quickly. I continue with Freezing Pulse. Those are projectiles after all. It works, you can see 5 of them on crit. Returning projectiles works as well, slower projectiles works too. It all works, but what doesn't work is the chain, once more. Also, this projectile has innate pierce, or native pierce, and because of that it is not an option for me. I think this is, however, for the regular staff a good candidate, as it is a lot of damage, it has good range, widespread, and it's cold damage. It's one of the more viable options, I feel, if you want to do something like this. We're almost done. Here is Frostbolt. It looks cool, I think, no pun intended. They return, although you'd have to wait 2 business days before they do. I think this isn't bad, but again, once more, the chain does nothing, because these things pierce by default. It's a recurring theme, and it's normally something you would appreciate, piercing projectiles, but in my case, it's not what I'm looking for. Here's an interesting one, Creeping Frost. That is a projectile, but it's pretty hard to tell what is going on exactly. I think, personally, that it does fire 5 Creeping Frosts, and I'm pretty sure the projectiles chain as well, but the issue is the hit damage of the skill isn't great, of course, as it is a dot skill for the most part. I didn't have high hopes for this, but after this little segment I have lost all hopes for this skill. So at the end of the day, ironically, my favorite skill is the one I've been using all along, Rolling Magma. It synergizes with the staff, it bounces, it synergizes with scaling AoE, as the bounces create AoE damage, it has good clear, good damage, and it's only rivaled in my opinion by Fireball, which in my view occupies a decent second place. All other skills are just not as good, I feel. All this time, Joe has been rocking the Twink gear. It is time to change that, at least a bit. And this is still the same SSF League as the previous Foulborn Roulettes. There is a lot of gear after all the wheel builds and those Foulborn adventures, like these boots. I figure I can get a lot tankier by equipping a brass dome. I don't see the need to 6-link this, it's just some sockets that would be fine. I get the Foulborn Soul Tether, that's another 5% max resistance once you reach the full energy shield for a few seconds. Here is my new amulet, it has +1 to fire skills. I use some essences on this fractured base. This is a pretty decent outcome. These are good gloves with fire exposure from an earlier character, the Foulborn 1 video. All in all, significant upgrades for Joe. Time to do a little test run, and it is clear mana is an issue with the new belt. Without mana you can't use cast on crit, so Joe's back on the Worm's Mold, which is a great belt if you just want to leech a boatload of mana and life. It's a bit of an ancient or meme, this item, but it does have its uses, especially because around the Templar area and the passive tree, mana leech is hard to find. You're looking at a tier 8 or so alleyway map, level 75 monsters, and I'm pretty happy overall with this. It is still doing what I want it to do after all, and Joe seems to be fine. I anoint some accuracy on the amulet. With precision aura I'm now at 96%. I get myself a diamond flask, not a bad idea for a crit build. I know it is bad to not be hit capped in a crit build, but for now the impact seems minimal looking at this footage, and I will fix it later on. I invest more in staff and block nodes. Attack block is 70%, spell block 72%. Here is a tier 14 map, now with Fireball again. It is okay, although the boss takes a while. The knockback, by the way, is from a staff node that I have. And here is a tier 16 with Rolling Magma while I reach level 86. Serviceable, decent, works as designed, but I'm not over the moon or anything when playing this. Something doesn't quite click, but it's hard to describe. Despite my efforts, the character just never really takes off. never really feels good to play. It's lacking tankiness, for example, and you'd think with a brass dome and block cap you'd be okay, but not really. I don't have enough life, of course, it's a big issue. It's not that I'm super surprised about all of this, but for some reason, this character doesn't inspire me to keep grinding and keep improving it, because the grinding itself isn't all that fun. I kind of feel that I've got what I came for. The concept in theory works and in practice works, but improving it further just isn't too interesting to me. That just happens, I feel, from time to time. Sometimes you just don't want to continue a build. I do continue though. I reach level 88 and level 89 while spinning and burning breach monsters. I do a bit of a respec, taking out some leech nodes and getting stun immunity on the tree with unwavering stance. I also get block capped. I fix my mana issues further by reducing the cost and increasing the leech elsewhere. And here is another test run. And you may look at this, it's tier 16 footage after all. I'm cleaning these maps with relative ease, and with some editing I could show this build as being a success. After all, I set out to make a spin to win cock build with the Foulborn staff, and that is what you're looking at. That is what you see in this footage. But to be honest, I don't really have any interest in selling you guys on a random SSF build. I think it is way more interesting to show the process and show both successes and failures. First off, that provides a bit of balance, right? And also you can't always end up with a decent character. Or in this case, you can't always have the motivation to further improve a character. If I wouldn't have this series running already, this whole exercise would just end up in the trash. There wouldn't be any footage whatsoever, I would just delete everything. I wouldn't even be bothered writing a script. But I feel there is still some value despite not having a very successful character. Another reason that the build doesn't really work all that well is single target. Tier 16 map bosses are a serious issue. Map clearing is not bad, but these bosses do not die with my build. And I think that a mapper should be able to kill at least a map boss, right? One way or another. I could equip a headhunter, but that doesn't feel right either. That could fix any build, you would think. I did try it, here you see some footage, and in the rest of the video I also have a headhunter equipped. I got one after all, but now I lack mana again and leech, so now I have other fish to fry. All things considered, I've basically reached a state where I know I could do several things to improve the character. I haven't even descended the 4th time, which would help with tankiness or more damage, depending on my choices. But I'm just done, really, with the character. It feels more like a meme build without a clear way forward than something I want to invest more time into. And I think that's fine every now and then. Not all of the projects work out the way that I hope. I think the base concept still stands and does work, but my implementation of it wasn't great at the end of the day. This character has also been developing over a longer period of time, while I was playing other games in between, which certainly isn't helping, because you kinda lose track of the character and how the progression was expected to go and that sort of thing. You're just less invested because of that as well. It's much easier to grind it out for a few days or a week and then get all your thoughts together and make a single video than to have that entire process span, in this case almost a month. That is just a bit of content creator info though. From a viewer experience it clearly shouldn't matter, but that is one of the reasons why the video is like this. That said though, I do hope you still enjoyed the video and that it wasn't like too negative or down. I don't feel bad about this build, I had fun playing it for the most part, and I always enjoy the writing and editing process. I was a bit on the fence if I should release this video at all, but you know, just let me know what you think. Feel free to put any of that in the comments. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Let me end the video for the diehard fans that are still around and that actually may care about this with a channel update. I am working on other projects as well, including another non-Foulborn Path of Exile 1 character, a fresh wheel build even, in Pox's Restart League. That is my main focus currently, so that's something to look forward to, I think sometime this weekend. I also have another project lined up that is intentionally a longer project that I've been doing on the side. It's more of an old school thing with some nostalgia involved, but I think it could be very good and interesting. It'll take more time before that is ready though. I will probably check out the new Torchlight Infinite season. I am a TLI enjoyer personally. If I do, I will make a Zero to Hero video most likely and provide some thoughts on that game as well. I like it a lot and there's always a ton of new content each season, and this time seems to be no different, so I'm quite excited about it. I'm also, for years now really, getting a bunch of keys for indie games, asking me to cover those. from solo developers and that sort of thing. I play them and some of them are quite good. It's just that if I make a dedicated video about one of those games, the views are going to be really bad, which is bad for the channel and it doesn't really help the game either. I do have a second channel that I haven't posted in for years, but it does still work, or it should. I could potentially release some videos on those types of games over there. A bit more low effort, perhaps a bit less editing, just, spread the word. And if you're interested in that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that idea. If you have any suggestions, just let me know in the comments. And with that, it's really the end. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. If you enjoyed this series and similar ones in the ARPG genre, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. See you soon. Love you all. Bye bye.